You are sitting in a meeting, the room is warm, someone is talking about quarterly numbers, your jaw stretches open on its own, your eyes water, and you feel a little embarrassed. You assume it means you are bored or tired or both, but the real answer is far stranger. Your yawn is not a symptom of boredom at all. It is a message from a system in your body that is thousands of times older than meetings, older than language, older than your species itself. Think about the last time you yawned. Where were you? Was the room warm or cool? Was someone near you yawning first? None of that is a coincidence. Your brain is running a program right now, one it inherited from ancestors who never sat in an office, never checked a clock, and never once worried about looking rude in front of a boss. Start with the obvious question. Why does your body do this at all? For decades, scientists assumed yawning was about oxygen. The idea was simple. Low oxygen, high carbon dioxide, and your body forces open a big breath to fix the imbalance. It sounds reasonable. It also turns out to be wrong. Researchers tested this directly. They had people breathe air with extra carbon dioxide, air with extra oxygen, and normal air, then counted how often they yawned in each condition. If the oxygen theory were true, the gas mixture should have changed the yawning rate. It did not. People yawned at the same rate no matter what they were breathing. The oxygen theory, one of the oldest explanations in medicine, quietly collapsed under a simple experiment. So what is actually happening? This is where a psychologist named Andrew Gallup enters the story. Gallup proposed something that sounded almost too simple to be true. He suggested that yawning exists to cool your brain. Here is the logic. Your brain is an expensive organ. It burns enormous energy and generates real heat, and like any machine running hot, it works best within a narrow temperature range. A yawn in Gallup's model is a built-in radiator. The deep inhale pulls in cooler air. The stretch of the jaw increases blood flow to the face and skull. The exhale pushes warm blood away from the brain. In seconds, your internal thermostat resets. Gallup did not stop at theory, he tested it. In one study, he had people hold either a warm pack or a cold pack against their forehead, then watched how often they yawned while looking at videos of other people yawning. The people holding the warm pack yawned far more often. The people holding the cold pack yawned far less. Cooling the head directly suppressed the urge. Now think about your own life. When do you yawn the most? Right after waking up, when your brain has been idling all night and needs to come back online quickly. Right before falling asleep, when your body temperature naturally begins to drop and your brain is transitioning states. In a warm, stuffy room exactly like that meeting, your body was never bored. It was managing its own temperature using a tool inherited from animals that had no meetings to sit through at all. Because this is not a human invention, dogs yawn, cats yawn, snakes yawn, fish even open their mouths in a yawn-like stretch. Go back far enough on the evolutionary tree and you find the same behavior in creatures separated from you by hundreds of millions of years. That is not a small coincidence. That is a sign of something essential, something so useful to a working brain that evolution kept it running across an enormous range of species in bodies that share almost nothing else in common. But temperature is only half of the story. There is a second layer to your yawn, and it is far stranger than thermoregulation. You already know what happens when you see someone else yawn. You yawn too. It does not matter if you try to resist it. It barely matters if you are only reading about yawning right now. Some of you reading this sentence are yawning already. This phenomenon has a name, contagious yawning, and the person who studied it most famously is a psychologist named Robert Provine. Provine spent years documenting how yawns spread from person to person, and what he found reshaped how scientists think about the behavior entirely. Provine discovered that simply seeing a yawn, hearing one, or even reading the word triggers the response in other people. He also found something more revealing. The contagion is not random, it is social. People are far more likely to catch a yawn from someone they know well, a family member, a close friend, a partner, than from a total stranger. That detail changes everything. If yawning were only about oxygen or only about brain temperature, why would it care who is doing the yawning? A cooling mechanism should not be more powerful coming from your sister than from someone you have never met. But it is, which means contagious yawning is not just physiology anymore. It is a signal of connection, a quiet form of communication running underneath conscious thought, tuned specifically to the people your brain considers close. Some researchers think this points to something even deeper, empathy itself. A scientist named Atsushi Senju studied contagious yawning in children, comparing typically developing kids to children with autism. What he found was striking. Children with autism were significantly less likely to catch a yawn from another person, even while yawning just as often on their own for physical reasons. The mechanical yawn stayed intact. The social contagion did not. Sit with that for a moment. A behavior you dismissed as rude, sleepy, or awkward may actually be one small window into how your brain tracks the emotional states of other people. Every time you catch a yawn from someone across the room, some part of your mind has already registered them, modeled their state, and quietly synced with it, all before you were even aware it happened. Now push this further back. Why would synchronization like this matter to a group of early humans? Picture a small band moving together across open land long before agriculture, long before shelter, long before any guarantee of safety. Fatigue was dangerous. A tired group member meant slower reactions, weaker vigilance, a gap in the group's collective attention. If one person's brain was overheating and losing focus, and that state spread through yawning to the rest of the group, the whole group could shift together, rest together, stay alert together. A synchronized group is a safer group, and a behavior that keeps everyone's alertness aligned is not a flaw. It is a survival tool. This reframes the awkward yawn in the boring meeting completely. You are not malfunctioning, you are running two ancient systems at once. One is regulating the temperature of the most expensive organ in your body. The other is quietly signaling and receiving signals from the people around you, exactly the way your ancestors did huddled together long before rooms, chairs, or clocks existed. There is a third layer to this story, one that stretches the timeline back even further than early humans. Look at troops of baboons, look at prides of lions. In many social animals, yawning spikes at exact moments of transition, right before a group moves from resting to activity, or right as danger passes and tension begins to release. Biologists studying these animals noticed something almost eerie. The yawns often ripple through the group in sequence, one animal after another, moving outward from whichever individual yawned first. It looks less like an accident and more like a cue, a shared signal that tells an entire group when to shift state together. There is also a hierarchy hidden inside that ripple. Some studies of primates found that yawns tend to spread more readily downward through a group's social structure, from higher-ranking individuals to those around them, rather than the reverse. A yawn from a leader carries more contagious weight than a yawn from a bystander. If something similar exists in humans, and Provine's data on friends and family suggests a version of it does, then every yawn you catch may be quietly revealing who your brain considers significant, whose internal state is worth mirroring, whose rhythm you are built to follow. Now think about how differently you experience a yawn depending on who is in the room. A yawn from a stranger on a train barely registers. A yawn from someone you love pulls at you almost instantly, sometimes before you consciously notice they did it at all. Your brain is not just detecting a mouth opening. It is running a constant, silent calculation about closeness, about trust, about who belongs inside your circle of attention. The yawn is simply the visible tip of that calculation. Consider, too, how this plays out across a single day in your life. Morning, stepping out of sleep, brain temperature still adjusting, a wave of yawns to help you power up. Mid-afternoon, sitting still, room warm, focus drifting, another wave arriving to cool an overheating system and force a small reset. Evening body temperature beginning its natural nighttime drop, one final series of yawns preparing you for sleep. Three completely different moments, three completely different biological purposes, and yet your conscious mind interprets all of them the exact same way. Bored, tired, rude maybe if it happens in front of someone else. The label never changes even though the underlying reason does. There is one more twist worth knowing. Excessive yawning, far beyond the usual daily pattern, can sometimes be an early signal of a body under strain, from sleep disruption to certain neurological or cardiovascular conditions. Doctors take a sudden change in yawning frequency seriously, not because the yawn itself is dangerous, but because it can be an early sign that the brain's temperature regulation system is being pushed harder than usual. Your body has been sending signals like this long before you had language to describe them. There's also a reason yawning feels almost impossible to suppress once it starts. You can try to hold it in. You can clench your jaw, breathe through your nose, distract yourself with a different thought. Rarely does it work. That resistance is not weakness. It is your conscious mind trying to override a process that evolution built to run automatically without permission, because a survival mechanism that could be casually switched off by embarrassment would not have lasted this long inside your biology. The urge wins because it was never designed to lose. Think too about how strange it is that a single word on a page can trigger the same response as a face across a room. You do not need to see a mouth open. You do not need to hear the sound. The concept alone is enough to reach past your conscious mind and pull at the same ancient circuitry. Language, one of the newest tools your species ever built, is somehow able to plug directly into a mechanism older than language itself. Few behaviors reveal that connection between old brain and new brain as plainly as this one does. So the next time you feel that stretch pulling at your jaw in a warm room right before bed or right after someone across the table does it first, notice what is actually happening. Your brain is cooling itself down. And somewhere in that same instant, your body may be reaching out quietly, wordlessly to the person sitting next to you, running a program built for survival long before either of you existed. Tonight, when you feel that same stretch pull at your jaw, you will know exactly what your body is trying to tell you.